are live.
No.
Yes. We are live.
Oh, no.
I don't know if I committed to this.
Yeah, well, it's too late. We sent wigs to all of the participants, so they should be arriving by DoorDash. It's hard getting DoorDash to deliver anything other than food. Listen, welcome, everyone.
I want to do a shout out. Happy birthday to Colt.
Oh, happy birthday. Roll call.
Whoa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Cole. Do you have speech? Give us a speech.
Well, 48 years on the planet teaches you basically that what you have is more to learn.
Oh, for those of you paying attention, that's the takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's awesome. Happy birthday. Thank you. What are you going to do tonight? Anything special?
We have a bunch of friends coming over tonight, and then tomorrow I have to make my way over to Portugal because my birthday present to myself is a house in the Douro River Valley.
Oh, man. Well, we'll send you off, hopefully, with some inspiring thoughts here. Thank you so much for giving us the birthday vibe, because that's the balloons are
love
popping.
A good birthday vibe. And if I knew where those birthday vibe, things that you do,
me and Colt just did the American Sign Language.
I don't see them in the Mac roll call here in the StreamYard. I can't figure out how
no reactions.
Yeah.
Well, they just lost some customers live here. Unless we get balloons. Let's see if we can complain hard enough.
Yeah, we got that big following here. So
yeah. Well, welcome everybody. I'm your host, Jake Sanders, co-founder of the Marketing Accountability Council, sitting here with some council members, Jay, Colt, Zach. We've been here since the beginning. Just to remind you who we are, we believe that we want to make marketing better, so we got to make better marketing. So I wanted to go through a couple things, and then we'll just open the floor. There's so much news, but I thought this was a worthy story coming up. I'm supposed to overlay the Fozzie gif on this, but the Wicked dolls, Mattel accidentally sent everybody to a not safe for work website. Man, y'all should have caught this. What? I'm just like, for digital marketers, you're constantly buying like domain names and URLs, and y'all didn't think about this at all. But anyway, just sort of a head slapping moment.
Wait, what happened?
But basically, I'll tell you what happened. And by the way, I am so innocent that I didn't know that Wicked was actually
bless your heart, Jay.
like I didn't get the memo. But on the back of the doll, it said, for more information, go to wicked.com, which leads you to a pornographic website.
So maybe just like a couple conversations more should have happened. Just like one or two.
Quite the embarrassing recall.
Oh, I don't even. I what do you do? It's just.
Well, I mean, this is the generation of constant improvement and iteration, and I mean, if we're looking at digital, we would just change the word. When you start to think about cutbacks in companies, maybe there's less of an emphasis on quality control and proofreading.
Oh, we have two more members that are looking to join.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't.
Quality control, proofreading for sure. Sure.
No, 1 second, please.
Just get the domain name before.
But if you could figure out, if you're Wicked and you want to figure out how to get some visibility, like widespread national visibility all of a sudden right quick, this is probably the fastest way you could do that.
Oh, you're saying this is a conspiracy theory?
No, I don't. No, it's not a conspiracy, but damn, is it effective.
Right. We're talking about it.
Can't put it past them. They've done it before in the past.
There was a memo about having the same background. I totally missed it.
No.
Come on, Zach.
Memo.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, the people's house that we're renting for this, They're going to come back
in the
like a
exact
half
same
hour.
room, and we're on the exact same position in the same house.
They're going to come back, and we better be out of here by then. is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
Check
Moni,
out was
thank you
noon,
for
y'all.
showing up. I knew you traveled across country or wherever you were.
Fresh off a plane. Yes, sir.
That is a big honor. Thank you. We're very happy to have you.
my favorite part of the week. Miss you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Moni's here. Jessica's here. We were just talking about the wicked snafu. Whoops. But here we are talking about it. So yeah, I mean, if you wanted to get some visibility, maybe that's
That
the way to do
rollout
it.
has been weird. It's like the anti-Barbie rollout. Like it's like a snafu after snafu with this rollout. I don't understand it.
It does feel weird, and then the some of the press junket stuff has seemed a little bit disconnected. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on with this one?
Well, hopefully it'll be like the musical, which is like the book, which is like the old movie, which is like Here Comes the IP. So I wanted to put this out because I was having this sort of, I don't know, maybe it was a hallelujah moment, but I was just thinking like, let me think. There's like two different sides of advertising. And a while back, we took one road, and that was being built in real time. And we went off the traditional path. So I wanted to talk about this fork in the road in between digital advertising and traditional advertising. Go to the next slide. Well, guess what? Digital advertising is eclipsing traditional. So, you know, it's headed to be the massive majority of budgets, you know, coming up. It has been for 2024. We've been talking about this for a while. TV's dead. You know, here comes digital. Everything is switching, but I just wanted to take a look at what we get from that and what we have to sacrifice for these things and compare traditional to digital. So go to the next slide. The traditional advertising pros and cons, and digital advertising was a solution. Back in the day, it was interactive advertising. Like in the 90s, they're like, imagine if somebody could interact with your ads. And every marketer was like, what? You know, it's like, oh my God, they're going to touch our ads. And you're like, yeah, you freaking pervs. But, you know, because everybody has been sitting there waiting to touch an ad. Like everyone in the audience, like, man, if I could just get my hands on that ad. Well, back in the day, you couldn't do any of this. Traditional advertising, it was a one-way kind of thing. You know, you had an ad, you took out a magazine slice, you're in the newspaper or whatever. But with those things, the pros were you had wide reach. You could get credibility and trust through the merit and worthiness of the media organizations that you choose to buy ads from. Tangible presence, again, associated with the mediums. Again, high production quality. Like you're not going to put a whack ad on TV. Well, depending on what day part it is, because if it's in the middle of the night, boy, they just let whatever fly.
Those infomercials.
Yeah. So, but then you get brand prestige. There's less ad fatigue because you put it all into one thing, and then you were targeting more contextually by mediums, not so targeted to one person. Now, the cons of this, and this is why digital advertising was created, it just costs too much. We can't target an individual. I'm just talking to the general masses. I can't know what my return on investment is. You know, I run an ad, in a TV spot or a radio spot. How long will it come back to me? Could be months, Well, now declining audiences, radio is eclipsing. Like radio is killing as far as an ad-supported medium. Cinema is a killing medium. But we don't think about that because we're sitting trying to figure out how to A/B test the 116th variation of a banner ad. So here you go. Well, TiVo skipped this, but you could skip through ads. And you can't update it in real time. So traditional advertising, you're dead. You're dinosaurs. Stop doing this to us. So let's go to digital advertising. What did we get when we transitioned into this Valhalla? You could reach people targeted, right? I'm talking straight to you, Brian, and they're like, yeah, send the ad to Brian again. Cost efficiency, we're thinking about, man, I can send out 1,000 ads for a penny. And they're like, say less, fam. Here's my money. And they're like, where are the ads? It was like, what are you talking about? We can measure the impact. Well, where, we won't even, the cons are over there. Let me keep going over the pros. This is interesting that digital advertising is a backbone for these platforms. Traditional media is ad supported as well, but every platform or media organization tends to end up being an advertising vehicle. Everything becomes a platform for ads in the digital advertising world. But there's accessible content. You can incentivize that quality content. Okay, anyway. So you have agility too. You can switch, but look at the cons. Banner blindness, we talked about that last week. There's privacy concerns all of a sudden. Now that you have this interactive advertising medium and I can touch it, well, now I have opened up a two-way privacy, shibboleth, and we get to share that. So I'm going to take your data and I'm going to sell it and you just keep giving it to me. We're dependent on algorithms that are black box. We don't know what's going on. Traditional, TV buys, you know what you're getting when you buy an ad on Dancing with the Stars. You know what you're getting when you buy primetime news.
What are you getting when you buy an ad on Dancing with the Stars, Jake?
You're getting an association with that thing, but it's known to everyone. And also we have to work on our tango. Me and you aren't there yet.
Yeah, this was just a softball for a joke. So
well, and I caught it, and then I kind of ate it, and I thought it was an apple, but it turns out it was a baseball. So whatever. So here we go. Another thing is ad fraud. I mean, if you don't get your ad seen on a network, they have to do something called a make good. They're like, we didn't do it, we're going to make it good. That doesn't happen here. Anybody can see your thing. The pixels are untrackable, but we can measure the impact. Oh, can you? Well, then tell me where this advertising fraud of $200 billion is coming from this year alone. Then the over-reliance on ad is a con, but it's also mentioned as a pro for digital advertising. Like, it's bad that we're over-relying on ads, but ads can become the revenue backbone for platforms. I don't know if that works. Echo chambers, clickbait, disinformation, foreign interference, surveillance, data collection, impact on democracy. I mean, honestly, the digital advertising ecosystem made it possible to spread misinformation, disinformation at scale. And those aren't necessarily political things. They could be marketing untruths that are being sold amongst us. Like, oh, have you heard about the rule of seven? The rule of seven's bullshit. You heard about this? Well, that's also bullshit. But because of this, I get to send it directly to you. Back in the day, you didn't have to do that. You had to think and understand what an audience was going to be getting into. And then that's how you made your advertising. So I wanted to go to the next one. And if we look at the cons and we equate them with the costs that we pay, in traditional advertising, the costs for getting it wrong are just what the cons are. You waste some money. You can't target people. That stays in that area. The costs and cons for digital advertising are completely externalized and downstream, and it becomes a dangerous thing. Those ad fatigue and banner blindness, well, that's wasted budget. Your privacy concerns are actually empowering $1 billion secondary data market. Data brokers don't care. They're not even here to wonder if your ad is good or if it did anything. They don't care. They just want that money. There's $1 billion problem in waste. We aren't allowed to audit the black box algorithms which algorithmically promote our things. I paid you to boost this post. I don't know how it's boosted. In what way? You gave me these things. Now, did I have privacy verification from the people that I could target? Cashew-loving 20-year-olds that find Bernie Sanders attractive but are also into...
Jake, sorry to interrupt, but I learned this week that when you boost a post on Facebook, you're only boosting to people that follow you. Like, I didn't know that. I thought that was a much more expansive thing. If you want to get beyond that, then you have to do the traditional targeted paid advertising. But a boost, like with one of those things that shows up in your feed, yeah, I want to boost, which really brings up something that's a little troubling. It's like, oh, I in my store said, follow me on Facebook. I work really hard to get 10,000 people to follow me, or 10,000 businesses, and I don't even have direct access to them. Wow.
Is that, I don't know that that's true. What platform are you talking about?
I saw there was a video that I showed in my class that it said on Meta. I could find the video and show you, but yeah, I mean, fact checker, you could check and make sure. I don't want to spread lies, but I mean, that's what this advertising agency said.
Oh, well, I don't necessarily know that that's true. I would want to know what specifically they were saying, because that does, like, the point of a boosted post is to help you reach a wider audience. Like, that's kind of, I mean, maybe there's different, maybe that's a specific type of boosted post but I would be interested to hear about that.
Yeah, I don't know. All I'm saying, I'm making a distinction between going into Meta and the platform versus those little things that they just say, hey, hit that button. That's all.
Sure. The other thing, like, I think this is a cool slide. I also think that, like, it's complicated, right? I think that the idea of privacy, Meta's job is to protect their users. And so if they're telling you how the sausage is made or whatever, then they're not protecting their IP, and they're also not protecting their customers. And so although, like, their users are the product, right? Because that's how they make their money, is on ad sales. If Meta as a company told everybody, like, this is the weight, like, this is our algorithm and this is how we do it, then they're not protecting, like, it's a safety. It's just that level of disconnect is actually protecting the user.
Well, I think you bring up a very valid point, but it's one of those things where, is it complicated or is it complex? And I would say, when you choose Performance Max or Audience Increase, on the paid ad side of Facebook or Google, that's sending it to who? Even if you did expand it to, are you telling me that these are real people? Because this is an option for us now, to kind of flood the daily active users, to, flood things with, bots or things that make it look like something's happening. I mean, fraud and waste is a huge thing. And these platforms are not incentivized to fix the fraud because it just makes it all look great. But if it's a $200 billion problem that we can solve,
I think that they are on some level incentivized to fix fraud issues, and they're actually really cracking down in terms of, like, Meta ads, who is able to post an ad, and kind of the visibility on that chain of command, who can touch an ad from the back end. They're getting rid of, like, generic domains. So Gmail addresses might go away as an ad, like an admin on the back end of Meta, like the business side. And I think that I'm not trying to defend Meta, but I've done a lot of I've been speaking with some Meta people about this kind of stuff. And in order for them to, like, let's just take a step back. You have to trust that they are trying to do the right thing. And ultimately, that's, I don't know, but I think that they do want to grow revenue, and that's by proving that they can deliver for advertisers. And so I think that although, they might be serving some ads to bots, I think they're really trying to crack down on what that looks like. So I don't know. It's interesting. We're in an interesting time with that, I think.
I agree. And if we go to the next slide, I think it'll consolidate what I'm thinking of here, because I think back in the day, if you got it wrong, you paid the cost, no one else. Like, you just didn't do a good ad. So, that's it. If you get it right back in the day, you would make a big impact, because these places are, serving out those, traditional advertising, things, and you're catching some of that vibe, like, wow, you're on TV. Wow, you're on radio. I saw your billboard. So it's sort of like you can make an outsized impact, and by just even putting an ad out there, you are doing the automatic expansion. What we were talking about, algorithmic boosting. Isn't it interesting that the traditional way to do that was to just do the ads? Now we have to wonder if we put enough spice on this thing. So what I'm trying to say is that the cons in the digital ads make it so everyone pays the cost. The fact that we have to think, if I can inherently trust Facebook with all of the data that they're using and that they are not out to make them more money, they really want my advertising clients to succeed. We have to believe in that thing. Back in the day, you just took a TV ad out. If it didn't work, you weren't questioning if the TV platform was against you or if they showed your ad somewhere. No, it was very transparent. It was up to you to bring something creative, memorable, and make that lasting impact in the marketplace. That's on you. Now we have it where if I didn't do this right, there's all these small little things about processes and efficiencies that I need to dial into, that I need to get into, that I need to get right, that I need to work more with the machinery of the marketing tools than trying to make meaty marketing happen in a marketplace. All you're doing is playing with your tools. All you're doing is platform babysitting. Like, it tends to be a little bit less about the work and more about the busyness of the business of digital advertising. So I think it's opened up a problematic way of thinking that we thought we could get rid of the high cost of the limited targeting, but that's what you needed. You needed to throw a big sign out there saying, I'm this. Y'all remember this. I want everybody to remember this in the audience. And then you chose your medium, which worked. But now we have like point by point, second by second, A/B tests up the yang. And you're not working on the messaging. You're not working on the core stuff that like Moni's talking about, you know? So I just wanted to go to the next slide, now open it up and tell me if I'm on to something, if I'm off. You know, Jessica put some good points about the work that goes
I jumped
into.
the gun.
No, it's all good. But it's a part of it. But I think you brought up some good point, is the incentivization from these platforms to get it right is there too. You know,
well,
so what do we think about this? Am I right? Go, Jess.
Well, I do think that this idea of like collective delusion or like, you know, things that make society work are like banks, right? And this is a data bank. So it's like, we don't know what banks do with our money before we take it out. You know, how are they growing their investments or whatever in order to have the money that we need when we want to take it out? It's kind of, there's some murky parallel to that for me.
We don't know. We don't know that until there's a liquidity crisis, and then we realize, oh shit, they can't even give us our money back because they've lost it.
Yeah. So like, right. But I think that right now we're in the, I don't know if there's going to be a data crash, right? Like, I don't know. I think that they actually do have the money. They do have the data to, if people can figure out and want to know how to adjust their little dials without just saying like, okay, I'm going to put this ad out there and it's going to get sales and that's chill, you know, because I put it into this machine. It is about creative at the root of it. It's like, if you're shooting a gun without bullets, like even if it's the best gun and it's optimized and has really cool sight on it and whatever, if your creative is lame, then I mean,
it won't attract. And that's what I wanted to say. And Jessica, before I say that, I want you to know that you were right. I looked it up, and the video that I read about Boost was not accurate. Facebook says that it could go, it's a step before doing your own targeted ad. You could do a boost, but with a boost, you can't do some of those conversion type things. It's the simplest way to advertise on Facebook. But that's Facebook. There's other channels. But what I wanted to say, and what I want the MAC to think about, is my lecture this week in my class. Like, this view of advertising as a thing that fits into these boxes on Facebook is a very limited view of the entirety of the ecosystem. And I presented this peso model: paid, earned, shared, owned. peso. This was something that was talked about a lot in my days when I worked in corporate. And paid, which is what we're talking about now, is just a part of the media mix. I would venture to say that the newer generations, the younger people, are much more likely to be inspired by earned media, which is much more credible, because that means someone said, I saw this and I decided to write an article about this because it actually means something to me. I'm able to add some context to it. So, like, I see this part of the media mix becoming so much smaller and smaller. And yes, people got excited. Oh, I could create a TikTok. It doesn't quite look like an ad. Or I can create an Instagram post. It doesn't quite look like an ad. I guess that's, I think that's a step in the right direction. But like all these ads that are just these bottom dwelling, sort of like very tactical, just talking at people and hard selling people, that should go away, shouldn't it?
We entered the metaverse. We're in the inception. We're marketed to marketing about marketing and sold at marketing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we got sold on the idea that marketing is simple with digital. It's like, all you got to do is this. And then there's some targeting and voila, you'll get $1 billion. And we all fell for it. Like, we all ate it up. For it. Like,
the joke's on us.
Yeah, exactly. And to the traditional advertising that you went over, Jake, that was backed by how much market research did those companies do before you put out a gajillion-dollar ad? Freaking ton. They didn't just put out an ad. In digital, you just put it out there. You don't ask anybody anything. You sit in the freaking boardroom and you come up with some nonsense and you throw it out there. Like, that's not what traditional advertising was doing at all. They knew their audience very well before they put out how much millions of dollars into an ad. We don't do that. So we don't do marketing really in digital. We've bought the Kool-Aid and we drank it, and we're in this inception version of marketing hellscape.
It's interesting, the peso thing that you're bringing up, Jay, because I feel like I'll let somebody else talk. I'll stop. But like, what is earned today, right? Like, who is, like, there's no Jesus evangelical, like, I truly believe in this product. That's so rare, right? Like, I used to, when I was doing media relations, it was earning media. Earning coverage for clients.
It's the mix. It's the mix. Like, if you look at this as a marketing problem, but if what I'm saying is that like, when you were media relations, that was one department. When you were marketing, that was one department. But at the end of the day, who gives a shit, right?
No, I'm saying that what the marketing mix looks like is a facade, because earned media is paid media.
Is paid, like, exactly.
It's paid for. Yes, it is.
Yes, absolutely. It's like all this jumbled mess.
Like, an influencer, it's really advocating for a product is like paid.
Exactly.
Everything.
No, the influencers are doing most of it out of the kindness of their hearts.
Yeah, they believe.
They're believers. Zach, what did you want to say? Oh, he's muted. But I'll say what he's gonna say.
There we go.
Oh,
I was muted. Sorry, but just if you're doing something so destructive and so or disruptive and so groundbreaking that everybody wants to take a look at it, and all of a sudden it becomes news, it really how you manage your business and how the kind of plays that you make can create plenty of earned media without having to pay a dime. I think a lot of that comes down to how the businesses are run and what kind of choices that they make to really shake up the status quo. But hey, I want to do a shout out for the old school designers. If you look, I've got analog vinyl records behind me. That's a perfect example of a beautiful medium that is mostly lost. To be able to design an incredible, beautiful album cover that was 12 by 12 and it became this icon of a piece of music. This is the ultimate original shrinkflation that's happened in history when it comes to design. And as print media like magazines are just continue to shrink and start to disappear, you lose things like those beautiful Wired magazine album magazine covers that have different types of print and texture and what have you. You know, the rock poster that used to be out promoting an event was a beautiful medium for design and marketing that has just been destroyed through digital marketing. Getting to only design some teeny little box that's going to show up on somebody's social media or on a website takes away what was an amazing craft that existed in marketing that has been in many ways kind of set aside. There's great, beautiful digital and video advertising that's coming out. There's a whole other medium that's really taking off to engage people from a creative level. But you know, and on an ecological level, it's probably better. That's less trees, that's less paper, that's less print material that's being put out there. But unfortunately, the one traditional form of media that is print advertising that seems to be doing just well is one of the most wasteful and annoying one of them all, which is direct mail. You still get all that junk mail in your inbox of your, you know, all that trash. You throwing it in recycling all the time. So
and I just want to say, people are losing their minds over the Amazon catalog for the holidays.
I was going to say, I feel there is a lane.
Numerous people loving that thing.
There is a lane for print coming back. What is old is new again, only because it's novel now, right? It's open space. Because you, like you said, we're Jake with like radio and stuff like those are actually being successful. There is a lane for some of these things coming back. I think in print magazine, like People Magazine is having like a banner year this year. Like they're selling out subscriptions.
Oh,
so
I just subscribed to the Onion. I'm gonna get subscriptions.
Well, that's earned media.
That's earned media, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
earned media.
Huh?
That's totally earned media.
It's totally earned media.
They earned my media.
It
was
a well-articulated strategic plan that also was backed in good, where they use some of the money from the settlement, and then they're gonna, you know, then everything that comes out now, they're gonna have a lot more of an audience.
It's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
because right now at the same time, you're getting results that suggest that no one is interested in watching CNN, MSNBC, and all the lame political commentary. So this is an entity that is able to eclipse that.
It feels like we're at an inflection point. Go ahead, Jake.
It's an inflection point, but again, I think it's another inflection point that rhymes with the last inflection point. Like just what you were saying, like there's nothing really new here, you know, but it's interesting that trust in the ad-supported mediums of media and news journalism has gone down. And then it's been replaced by something that has even less of our trust. And so it's just like, where do we put that in these, you know, like maybe it's up to us to think, how can we curate communities like Moni's the word of mouth thing that you had was just like deeply understanding your audience. I just talked to a data scientist, and he was talking about all the data stuff needs to start with a deep understanding of your audience. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was thinking about marketing. I was like, if you really understand your audience, you're going to make, I was like, oh my God. But I think what is problem, we're not having the self-reflection to know if we know. And we don't want to look dumb. So we don't want to ask questions. We want to look like we know. And it's causing us to create advertising that then supports mediums that then destroys the mediums. I'm not saying it's our fault, but I am saying that, boy, we have a heavy hand to play in these things. And in regards to traditional advertising, okay, so Fox News just sells nothing but boner pills, you know, or whatever for like, you know, adult diapers, you know, like that's the people buying the ads, you know, so you're like, oh, it's a dying medium. Well, then what are we doing on these other platforms that are not only causing irreparable harm to our families, just the fact that I can't go and pick up my kid. All of the parents are strapped to their phones. What are they doing? I'm probably just enjoying relevant and personalized ads. But the point is like, we are strapped on these screens. Our kids are strapped on these screens. They're divulging their deepest personal histories to AI bots that then like, nah, hold on. This is an advertising supported medium. I think advertisers should say something real quick, you know, and like cue the people all coming back to Twitter. Like once Elon Musk gets in there, like all the big advertisers are back on that platform.
Have you been listening to Stolen Focus? What I told you to listen to? Is that why you're
I
all
couldn't
on
focus. No, I haven't, I haven't heard that, but Is that did I just hit it?
Like really gets into
Yeah.
all the stuff we're talking about right now, and you know,
Yeah, man. For me,
it's a
I
mix,
think
man. I feel like it's a lot of things, right? It is what you say, Jake, but it's also like I feel like we underestimate the vast amount of ignorance from a marketer standpoint that's out there. We have literally a generation, a solid 15 to 20 years of marketers of this is all they know. They don't know market research. They don't know the old way of doing things. They have no idea what that is. They know you go crunch some numbers, you collect as much data as possible, you spit it back out to people. They don't know, oh, I need to back that up with like talking to people and like understanding them and having conversations and marry that with like that data. Like they don't know that, right? So it's like there is what you say, but there's also like this is all somebody who's 35 and under knows.
wow.
Right? Like they don't know any better. This is the society that we've lived in, that they were raised in, and this is their normal. So I feel like there's something going on. There is a shift happening clearly. What the next 20 years looks like, I have zero clue. I just know it won't look like the last 20. So it could be great. It could be the apocalypse. I don't know.
It could be, but I mean, you know, I try not to talk about like operations of the Mac on these live calls, but I mean, that's where our opportunity lies. And, you know, I think that, you know, educating the world about what the accountability marketing movement looks like and how it's defined and how it works and how you are to do it, not by being prescriptive of exactly, but giving directions, creating frameworks and principles. That's where we as an organization need to go. And to that end, world announcement to peers here, I signed up and have created the first 2 modules of this over the last week. Now, are those modules perfect? No. Do I want all of you to look at these modules and say, hey, I need to add this, I need to add this meme, I need to add this example? Yes. But I think this is a product of what we do, because if you look at what we've talked about, the themes are common. And the world needs people like us in positions like us to lead this shift. It has to happen, right? We can't just keep on relying on all those slides and believing that that's why we went into this industry. It can't be.
So in my conversation with this guy, he was talking about data listening. And I was like, huh. It's like you have to have discernment, intuition. You have like a lot of these things that were like, oh, you're just going off your guts. Like, what does the data tell us? You know, it's like, no. Get, like Moni says, this is that quantitative, qualitative. You got to bring both of these here.
Correct.
You got to think short and long. You got to get people's attention and hold it. You know, like you can't just be a part of an earned media cycle. What's going to happen on the next one? You're hoping to get another thing. So then, you know, you got to kind of ramp up your virality until you're just absurd. Maybe, you know, stop thinking about the hamster wheels you're on, the KPIs that you're tracking, the incentives that you think prove value for your job. My biggest mind blow with the AI agents recently is that a lot of people are worried that the AI is going to take your job. No, it's going to help you take care of your rote tasks if you can describe them properly. A lot of people can't even describe the random bullshit, the processes, all the tasks that they have to do. They don't even think that's my job. Well, what is your job? I'm just filling spreadsheets, resizing logos, making sure a pixel didn't get dropped, you know, I'm just kind of making sure the ad platform is, you're platform babysitting. You're just resizing numbers. You're not a marketer. Like honestly, think about it. And then they're like, oh, you don't want to have that level of self-reflection because you know how far you are away from touching it. What you need to do is ask yourself, if I get a 10% increase in this click-through rate, what does that have? What's the impact for the company? You soberly ask yourself that question and then find out. maybe you should find a different way to tell this story. Maybe you should find a way to connect with people. Maybe you should have a conversation with customers. It's really good because a lot of this highfalutin advice, like you don't need data statistics or to understand interpretation and R, Python, or coding languages or any of that. You just need to be curious in the right way and ask better questions. If we can create a generation of marketers that are just asking questions,
That's it.
my man, I think it could happen, and I think it could happen today.
And that's what we're doing. Look at us.
Oh.
We're 6 of us volunteering our time on a Friday afternoon to do that. And I think that's the power, promise, and potential of our organization. Like, and that's how I think we should scale. Like, let's bring curiosity back to marketing.
I just want people to recognize that me and Moni have basically the word I know on different T-shirts.
Yep.
Unrelated?
Unrelated. Well, this is my company shirt. I know good marketing. That's
There we go.
Oh, well, that's good. But you got to know it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, I appreciate you having this conversation with me. So that was good. I appreciate.
So where do we suss out on traditional advertising versus digital advertising? Well,
before we try to reach a conclusion, I have a thought I wanted to toss into this, which is, and you guys have heard me say this before, I always like to identify when a question is being asked in a vacuum. An example of a question being asked in a vacuum is like, are we going to do X, yes or no? Another example would be, are we going to do A or B? And this is what we're doing in this situation, is A or B. And I will always sit there asking myself, what's C, D, E, and F? So in a conversation about traditional versus digital, I start thinking about what are the other things that we can do. It actually fits really well because I am drafting a piece for the Mac that is going to be 50 totally out of the box ways to creatively get visibility for your brand and your products. And the things that I'm thinking about, like there could be, like flash mobs is an example, or when you have like set up a treasure hunt or product placement. I really like the way B&H, that's the audio video online store.
Mm-hmm.
They do product reviews, they do training, they do tutorials. They're not selling what they do. They're teaching you how to do what you want to do, right? They're a house of education, and that's their marketing. And I think that's brilliant. You could do a contest where you want to tag your fan base to create the next design of your logo. You could have a gigantic blow up version of your product sitting in the middle of a park. Like
but these things aren't digital, Colt. These things aren't digital.
They're not digital. They're not traditional.
They cost money, Colt.
Yeah, what is he talking about?
They take creativity.
Yeah.
Oh no.
There's speculation that there's a return to traditional marketing, because I would love to see that come back. And there's so much great creativity when it comes to, like, flash mobs requires musicians and artists and creatives, and bringing back other creative folks that can market through other talented ways to bring messaging forward. I think that's a fantastic way. I think so too. Some of the disruptive marketing that's happening in messaging, like going to the Tesla factory and putting a giant projection on the building and telling a whole story about how Tesla got how Elon Musk got as powerful as he is. That's, even though it's not marketing a brand or anything like that, that's disruptive marketing. And there's a lot of different ways in which I'm hoping there's a resurgence of creativity through alternative forms.
It brings up a point that, so I mentioned this book, Stolen Focus by John Hari. The first chapter of the book talks about him and his godson, and he always wanted to go to Memphis and to see the Elvis Museum. And they went to the museum, and the guy was all concerned about, digital taking over. And then he was there, and they handed everyone an iPad. And then they said, take the tour of the museum. You could see what's inside all the rooms. They were there. They were there. They didn't need the iPad. And so, Colt, when you bring that up, it's like, wow, have we gotten to the point where people are already with their own phones? Then all these museums are imagining these things that are so immersive digitally, but the reality is that we don't even know how to socialize with each other.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we have to look at marketing holistically.
Oh my God! But you're saying something that's really interesting, and this is probably me just getting way too high on my own supply, but advertising, in a way, is a mirror that in its messaging shows people how relationships are executed or proposed or something like that. And so it's very interesting to think of like the power of keeping a relationship going. And we talked about this a couple ones back, but I still think that's so weird, is that we have gone away from these amazing omni-channel experiences, like frickin' Mission Impossible. Like when that came out, there was like a website and it was like this game, and then there was like this thing, and then I was like, what's going on? My brain was like, wow. And then, but it was like, this is for a big thing, but we're going to do little things that all match up. And then people, the people with the Mountain Dew budget, they get to do this, but us with our small little pithy budgets and our small little boring products, like, no, I don't. No. And you're like, no, we need to be thinking bigger. And you need to think, if you really want a relationship with somebody, you got to do the say anything, John Cusack, I'm standing outside your door with the boombox. Please love me. Oh my God. And people nowadays think what a relationship is I'll slide into your DMs. I will send you 1 to 2 messages. And depending on your emoji responses, I will know if there is a thing there. And if minute length of responses too. If it's 15 minutes, this person hates me. If it's 20 minutes, you still have a chance, maybe. And that's what a relationship is. That's how you start a relationship. You find some way to slide into a message. And rather than thinking, I need to present myself in the best way possible, and if I want to get a date, I better start looking dateable. And most people are like, accept my brand as I am. 10% off.
And then let's go Dutch. And then if you do anything that pisses me off, it's over.
Right.
Like a whole degradation.
What you were starting to say, Jake, was really interesting when you started with your little speech there. I mean,
thank you.
Is it like, so if we are raising a generation of people that don't know what it means to look someone in the eye and shake their hand, to sit up straight, to have table manners, to do all these things that were seem to be much more pronounced when I was growing up. Like when I was growing up, we sat at the dinner table all together. And that was a ritual every night. Grandma would call at 5 p.m. There was just a much more of a consistency, and so is the advertising that we're seeing a reflection of our antisocial society?
Oh my God.
Yes, of course. Like technology and communication, like this is all a mirror. Like it's a dance, right? Like it's a cause and it's a constant like back and forth. That's what we're talking about. And I liked what you were saying about dating, right? Like it goes back to what I believe is like being a good marketer is being a good friend, right? And it's the same for technology. It's like how that evolves. We're watching, not only are we reacting to it as marketers, we're also creating it, right? Like,
yes.
And I think that is interesting, and that's why we have a responsibility.
But your part about friendship, there's a study out there that says how many of you have one good friend? How many of you have 2 good friends, 3, 4? The amount of people that don't have one good friend is insane, and it's getting higher and higher and higher. And I know what it's like. I mean, I have a couple good friends, and I'm so lucky. And, during my divorce, I was lucky to have, and I was shocked at the supportive network that just showed up around me of dudes, which was also weird.
Well, that's
like male support network. And you're like, oh my God, what's going on? Aren't we all supposed to be in the patriarchy? Like, if we do want to talk about our feelings, can we cut down a tree? And you're like, no, I'm trying to see how you are. And it was like, oh my God. So what you're saying is like, just be a good friend. People don't know how to be good friends.
That's true. And people don't even know how to be men. Like there's
men.
The modern.
Yeah, okay.
That's a whole other.
Don't get into it. Don't get into it.
But I think that it was really interesting. Well, I want to just react to like what both Colt and Zach talked about. Like, yes, what's option C, Colt? And it's a mix. Like you have to
Mhm.
do both, and they play off each other. I remember when, like, maybe, I don't know, when AT&T did this, like the bars thing, like bars in more places, right? They did that in
Right.
outdoor, they did it in traditional, they did it digitally, and the way that they played with like display ads or, you know, sidebar ads was
Right.
it was like aware of where it was, and played
Yeah.
off of that on your page in the same way that it did it for outdoor too. And I think that that's a good example. Like, so many people do a 360 campaign, right? And it's all of those things. And I think that that's what we need to think about. It's not either or. And also it depends on who you are. Are you Louis Vuitton? Because then you're going to be in an airport. Then you are relying on traditional that is going to stand the test of time because it's going to be in vogue. And we're going to talk about it. Like, if Balenciaga screws up a print ad, like, we're going to talk about it. Not, I mean, I think that, yes, Colt, it's not A or B. It's definitely not. And then to what Zach said, I believe in the record. I believe in the album art. You know, I believe in the concert poster, and I think that, I mean, I was a yearbook editor, like print. Hello, you know,
that
I
says so
designed
much.
the cover, and I was like talking about you know, the fonts, and I spent weeks ordering from foundries so I could figure out like what it was going to look like and how I'm going to deboss the cover. And I feel like there is such a beautiful thing about tangibility. There was and it's also anchoring you into this is who I am, right? This is me. I align with, there was this really funny I think it was an Instagram account, but it was the idea of it was called The Conspiracy. And it was Kinfolk was this magazine that meant it kind of embodied the like influencers who wanted to do a flat lay, maybe like with a beautiful espresso and like light coming down over your book, and it would be like the Kinfolk magazine, and people created an Instagram account of all the people posting the same thing, the espresso, the Kinfolk magazine. And it's like that embodied a certain type of person. I feel like we are watching that come back because people want to touch stuff, even if it's just to put in their Instagram photo, right? In the same way people do like ad experiences so that people will take photos and then put it on their feed to align themselves with the brand.
All right, question for you, Colt, though. I've been having these conversations for a decade, and I 1000% agree that there's the BC option of like some hybrid combination of both. But I can never get away from the what about ROI? They still want the damn ROI and they want it now. Like some of these things that we're talking about is going to take resources, investment, time to, you know, fruition to
cook. It's got to cook.
It's got to cook. How do you deal with what's the ROI of this and how much money is it going to take?
Sure, I run into that a lot too. If you were going to create an event that has visibility isn't sales. So this is where I come to, what is the strategy for the company? Are you trying to get acquired in the next 18 to 24 months? In which case, margin, sales, EBITDA is all that's going to matter, because that acquisition is going to be based on your EBITDA, and there you go. That's what you're aiming for. So put sales in the door. If you have a strategy where this is your business, this is the long ball game, you're already a public company or something like that, or you're just in it, you're in it for 5 years, 10 years, the long ball game requires brand visibility, because eventually you're going to run into the I've never heard of you, I don't trust you, I don't whatever. And if you haven't established visibility of your brand at that time, which takes years to do, you're going to run into a limitation on the capacity of your growth. So the conversation I have with business leaders has to be around, what is the long-term strategy for what you're doing? If you're trying to get an exit in 18 months, all this branding stuff, we're just going to forget about it. If you're trying to play the long ball game and you're doing the 5-year, 10-year plan, we have to start thinking now about brand visibility for the long-run viability of the company.
What I was just thinking of is, oh my gosh, no one knows what they want if you ask somebody, what's your plan for the future? To stay in business as long as I can. And you're like, oh, okay. So is this the Hunger Games or are you running a business? And they're like, I just need to stay alive. And you're like, uh-huh. So, but I mean, I'm really thinking like people don't know the longevity plan. So like, why would I even have this Maslow hierarchy thing of worrying about like my plan? Oh, you're hilarious. Like it's fire, like it's death, it's disease and pestilence. And you're like, I don't know how long I'm going to last. Most people don't know how long they're going to last. And maybe they can't speak with it.
Of COVID, are we just like, because we've gone through a lot in the last 2 decades, whether it be natural disasters or things like that. And the 5-year plan doesn't mean as much, but historically the 5-year plan meant more. Right.
Yeah.
But when the world didn't blow up in our face.
Well, and to take it back to a personal thing, if you approach every relationship with what do I get out of this and how soon do I get it back? That's cool. Like, yeah. But
try that in your personal life.
Yeah, that works for escorts. That maybe works for other like those types of things. But if you want a relationship, could you imagine asking your kid what the ROI for my work is? Like, imagine that. Be like, kids, I really need to see a bit of a return, and be like, okay, this parent is a fucking asshole.
But I think that there's a timeline on return, right? Like, the timeline is maybe, for me, it's like, I don't know when my parents are getting a return. Maybe never, but that's the gamble you take, right? Like, I think that my brother has shown a return. Like, he is a successful member of society. He's making a lot of money. He's happy. That's the return, right?
But do they love him more? I don't think they do. Anyway, let's not get into that.
Let's not go there. Yeah.
It's return on inspiration.
Yeah, well, but I just think it's very interesting that a lot of these questions and the inability, Moni, to your point of getting a buy-in for a long-term plan maybe come from an existential doubt that I won't even be living, and like
I think it's a legitimate point, and I have long said that the ROI conversation has annoyed me for again a decade because it's limiting. It automatically puts handcuffs on what you can do. You already chopped my hands off. So all right, now I have to fit in this box. I have to do this by this amount of time. That limits the amount of things I can do right off rip. Right. So it's like I've never liked that conversation. And kind of to your point, it's like, why are you asking me the return on all of these things? It's like, is my love and appreciation not enough for you? Like, is my existence not good enough anymore? Like, it has to be something there. It's like, I got a puppy. What's the ROI on this puppy? Like, if you get a dog, right, it's eternal love forever, but you have to pick up shit every day. That's the deal. Yep. Right? Like, there are always going to be trade-offs, and we have not figured out a good way to have this conversation with the C-suite at all. Like, we have to figure out this conversation.
Well, so and what I wanted to was a personal thing. I used to work in personal injury. Yes, Zach, peace. Oh God.
Later, guys.
Later, brother.
Just one parting comment, just before I go, as you're talking about like Fox News and boner pills and diaper ads and lonely people sitting at home. My algorithm recently just told me to watch the movie Idiocracy, and I think Mike Judge is absolute prophet. If you rewatch just even like this scene where he falls into the room where the guy's sitting there watching television and his easy chair is also a toilet and the TV is just covered with all these different banner ads everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're heading. And if you look at the kind of misinformation that's happened with advertising and how that's recently affected our government, that's where it's heading. And there's kind of two camps when it comes to like intellectual and engaging and creative and knowledgeable marketing. And then there's just take whatever people's going to get, go for the highest click rate, go for what's going to influence. And like the division that's happening in digital marketing is definitely kind of creating two different styles. And honestly, that's what we're up against. We're up against the idiocracy factor.
Zach,
just dropped a big old one.
I mean, because Zach, just stay for just a second, but like that's what's missing from our conversation because that's what won. We're talking about like and we're talking about whatever we believe we should be doing, but the reality is that what I've seen based on what a popular society is sort of consuming, it's much more far away from what we're talking about than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality, is that we're up against this wave of that momentum. I mean, he was so on point with his predictions. This movie came out like what, 13 years ago or something, and he predicted that in the future people are going to choose the most ugly shoes possible, and the shoes that he had everyone in the future wearing were Crocs.
Oh,
And
Love
what
that.
are everybody wearing right now? Fucking Crocs. He called it. He saw what was happening. And you know, the more you analyze that predictive film, the more you realize it's a clear description of exactly what we're up against.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also, I'll let you go, but there's like there's a split in the road, right? Robert Frost, like there's half of us are wearing the Crocs, and then half of us are like pissed off that everyone's wearing Crocs or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, I got to bounce, you guys.
All right.
Thank you for the
Bye.
conversation. See you
All
guys.
right. Thanks, Zach. Bye.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad you brought it back. Just like the fork, like, and
Yeah,
Jay's like,
exactly.
we are way down this road, and I'm hip to that. But what I wanted to say to your point, Moni, is the only time that I've ever experienced something where someone was like, ROI, whatever, was with a person who had $2 million ad budget, personal injury law firm. But he had been doing this for 25 years.
Right.
And he knew, I put a billboard ad up. I buy this TV spot. I use this radio station. I'm done. I'm good. And it worked. And I came on board as the marketing director, and I had just learned marketing from the internet. So I was like, my man, you're stupid. TV ads, they're dying. Like billboards, no one looks at them. Like, you know what you need to do? Like YouTube, you need social media, content, blogs, you know. And he was like, graciously, he said, okay. Like, you know, and then 3 months in, I took a look at the P&Ls. I was like, well, how do we make money? Isn't that interesting? It took me a while to get there. And then I looked at the returns on the ROI for that. Radio was like gangbusters, and it still is gangbusters to this day for that law firm. I still hear their ads, but the only way it could happen is if somebody in the past brings this knowledge forward to people.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, you have to just say, but for that law firm, for those types of cases, for that
industry.
But what I'm saying, that industry has done it. Why isn't anybody else doing it? Lawyers are doing it. Why isn't anybody else doing it? It's very confusing. Like you're thinking like, well, I don't deserve a TV. It's too expensive. Well, MTMN, the Ryan Reynolds thing, they are making it really easy to get good TV ads up and running. And you can track it just the same. I mean, we are finding that ABC thing, and we are living in that world. So it is possible, but I think people need to think old school and then behave and tactically be in the now. Like, I'm not telling you to get a billboard ad or a TV ad. I'm saying think that big and then play with your little doodads. But you're going to be bringing some real brain power to it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think there is a, I was having a conversation a couple of months ago with the director of sales for Peacock, the streaming, because they're selling the streaming ads. Yeah. And like Amazon's doing the same thing where it's making it accessible. Now it's like TV ads are accessible to a lot more people. So it is a thing, right? So I've always felt like there's this hybrid model coming where we're mixing both of them. How it looks, I don't know. I mean, that's always the question, right? And there still has to be a sense of like, you still need to bring principles to it. That's where I feel like the one fork in the road is falling down, and it's so frustrating. Like, there's zero creativity. There's zero like onus to even talk to anyone, ask anybody, you know, test the audience to get to the point where like you can make this effective for you, right? And the whole, well, I have $5 in a stick of gum. What am I supposed to do with this? Right. You know, I don't want to even invest in, like, there's some areas in B2B where like marketing isn't even a worthy investment. They don't even look at it as a good investment. It's like, it's cheap and it's low cost and no money and just white papers and webinars and whatever they think doesn't cost any money is what they do.
Yeah. And it's amazing to think Colt was talking about, like, depends on what your thing is. If you want to exit, you don't care. You know, if you want a legacy, maybe you're going to care a little more. But I love that we're thinking very dynamically about the incentives, the barriers, you know, the restrictions, the possibilities. This is the kind of stuff.
Wouldn't it be fun for us to kind of do like a little challenge, like if we took one problem and then did a brainstorm, like a little workshop, I guess, on solving their problems, like, because we talk about things in such a broad way, like I just said something about AT&T and then we're talking about this lawyer, and they're different. Like, we're just not talking about the same thing. You know, we're just really talking about so many different budgets and industries and timelines. And you know, what if we had like a creative brief? This is what I used to do in yearbook. I used to do yearbook competitions where they gave you and I did this on Roughing It paper. So this is like in a room.
Wow.
They give you
Paper
a written
cuts.
prompt with some photos that I had the wax pencil and the thing, and I cropped them and created like a cover, table of content, like the opener pages, and would write the copy, do the design, and then write the little like editor notes for the printer. Anyway, why don't we do that? Like,
well, I think we should. Fun. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say with, that's an idea that I have. And the idea would be, well, not the, it's a similar idea. Like, why don't we reinvent the model of peso? That's our workshop for next week. And then we put it out there as the MAC framework for paid, owned, earned marketing. We have the ability and the capacity to think about big industry conversations and then publish these types of ideas. It's the same idea, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking more about like, okay, that's one thing to consider and one frame, like lens to view it through. But if we like picked I think a case study workshop could be fun to like.
It would be great, and I think we should do that. So there could be several formats for these things. One could be sort of like Jake's running through the whole thing. You know, Moni could do something like what she does in her workshops. You know, and we could sort of have these facilitated conversations. And I think we should also have guests who want to hear it from us. You know, we've been putting these live a couple times. It's been 3 or 4 times during this broadcast. I've seen 1 or 2 people come on and view for a second. It shows up online for the next amount of history. That's when people watch it. We promote it. This is our test run. But now that we're getting comfortable with this, the production value might go up a little bit. I think we should start to do stuff like that, where it's like you invite someone on, let us solve your problem with you. No?
Yes.
I've always wanted to do some test. I mean, I feel like, yes, I think that's a great goal, but let's get comfortable doing this. And yeah, I like the deck thing, but maybe we could do one of these with ourselves. I think inviting somebody on right now is
not yet.
I'm with that, but
or maybe it's something else. It doesn't have to be this. The you know, workshop-y type thing could be another thing, and this can be this, and that can be something else.
Sure,
you don't have to combine it.
So now that we're talking about all the logistics, I'm going to end the stream.
Okay, say bye.
Bye. But
bye.
But stay on because I want to show you all something.
Bye.
If you